Beyblade has been a constant presence in my life, in a literal way. It was released in July 1999, and I was released in September 2001. That makes me and the Beyblade franchise both over 20 years old, which means that I'm an infant to actual adults and an old man to children. But joke's on them! I lived in the exact time period where I could watch all of Digimon Adventure dubbed on YouTube, so I'm better than all of them. Yeah, back when YouTube was young and not hellish, you could just watch full anime in their entirety because copyright holders didn't care so much back then. And then the internet became shitty for the rest of known time and all copyrighted content was just nuked off the site. That is until companies looked at all of their backlog shows and said, this isn't making us enough money. Thus began an era of putting entire episodes or even series up on YouTube, which gave them a new life that benefited both license holders and viewers. The license holder gets ad revenue off of a series that stopped printing money, and the viewer doesn't have to pay for a streaming service. And even if the series is hosted on a free streaming service, those are still a hassle to log into as opposed to it just being on YouTube. And even then, what the hell is a Tubi? A series being on YouTube removes a whole barrier of entry. You can link it to friends. It's there with the rest of your content. You can watch an episode of Epithet Erased and then immediately go to watching sex. Let's go! I love sex! It's not uncommon for all of my friends to get into a show because it's freely accessible on YouTube. One time that show was the English dub of Beyblade Metal Fusion.
The power of Beyblades have been used to change the course of rivers and oceans.
Jesus Christ. I watched it as it aired weekly for 52 episodes. That's an entire year. My friends watched it in 1 week. Beyblade Metal Fusion, or Metal Fight Beyblade in Japan, was the first entry into the Metal Saga of Beyblade, which lasted from about 2008 to 2013-ish? Taking cues from the heavy metal system of the Bakuten Shoot or Plastic era of Beyblade, these Beyblades were loaded with metal. They made fun noises when they hit each other, and this led to a little thing we call a cultural zeitgeist.
Beyblade, Beyblade, let it rip!
Beyblade was everywhere. It ruled playgrounds. Everyone wanted in on two tops cockfighting. You didn't have an arena? No problem. Just launch them on the concrete. I mean, it's probably fine. They did it in the show. In the show, they also blow up buildings and say Poison Serpent is a good combo, so I wouldn't cite it in an academic paper, much less imitate it. So this show had to be good for my friends to finish it in a week and to carry such cultural significance, right?
From the data collected so far, it is indicated that you go to the bathroom at this time every day, monsieur. System commence the operation.
Yeah, that's much better.
I'm filing for bankruptcy. Metal Fusion is incredibly fun. It follows the story of Ginga Hagane, or Jinga Hagane, or Ginka Hagane, or Jinka Hagane, or Jenga Hagane. He comes from a podunk RPG starter town and goes to the big city to have a Beyblade adventure.
Let it rip!
He's Goku. That's his bio. He's incredibly strong, simple-minded, friendly, and everyone uses him as the benchmark for their personal dick measuring contest. His Beyblade, Storm Pegasus, is an attack type that has no real gimmicks except for an incredibly aggressive flat rubber tip. Since this isn't compelling enough for Dragon Ball with spinning tops, you can also make it go in circles fast enough to create a tornado vacuum, or ramp off the side of an arena in order to make an aerial meteor attack. This astoundingly never backfires in a meaningful way. Now you might think, that sounds stupid. This is actually one of the least ridiculous abilities in the show, because there's Beyblades that can disintegrate solid concrete in the sand with sonic waves, do Shadow Clone Jutsu by moving so fast, and spinning left. Now that might sound like it doesn't do much, but actually it does. Terrorism! Terrorism is actually the core element of Metal Fight Beyblade's plot, as Ginga eventually butts head with the nefarious terrorist group Dark Nebula, and their leader, Doji, the pizza sommelier.
Eating a pepperoni pizza with a knife and fork is so much more civilized than eating with one's hands.
Ginga's not alone though. He has his unlikely cast of Canadian voice actors to back him up, including but not limited to actual baby Kenta, and the power couple of Warrior Cat's role player Kyoya and his kitten Benkei. Kyoya takes a little convincing to actually join the group because he's like that. He is the obligatory Beyblade gang leader. There's one in every generation, there is no exception.
My Kyoya!
Is like the Vegeta of this series, except if Vegeta were a furry and had a big lovable boyfriend. Okay, so if Vegeta didn't kill his boyfriend and eventually made up to his boyfriend for trying to kill him, he still tries to kill him though. Just like Vegeta, he never beats Goku Hagane. But his defense-type Beyblade, a type which is primarily supposed to stay still and take attacks, well, does this. As Sun Tzu said in The Art of War,
Good offense is the best defense!
the part of Kyoya that sticks out compared to other rival Lancers in Battle Shonen, because if we're being honest, Beyblade Metal Fusion is one of them, is that he's intimately tied to his retainer and pseudo-boyfriend, Benkei. Benkei is the big guy of the series. You know, the big one. But with Kyoya, he becomes a very loyal and endearing foothold for Kyoya's human decency. He's Kyoya's better half. And his balance-type Beyblade, Dark Bull, does tossy times. He also kind of adopted Kenta, local fetus. Kenta is a little baby man. He's only 3 apples tall, and I could toss him around like a football. He is the only character in the show that looks his age, that age being child. His Beyblade skills leave a little bit to be desired, but he gains confidence as he meets Ginga and his other surrogate father figures. Kenta is armed with Flame Sagittario, a stamina-type Beyblade that can summon flames and has claws on its spin track because I guess the best stamina is serial arson. They may play him off as unskilled and inexperienced, but they give him more wins consistently than any woman in the show. Unfortunately, Beyblade was advertised primarily to a male demographic, meaning that all of the female characters of the show do not win. And I don't mean win in Bey battles, I mean win any happiness in general. Madoka, Team Bey mechanic and parts expert, can infodump about any opponent's special gimmicky parts that you can buy in stores now. She knows the sport in and out. She has one Beyblade match and she loses it. Hikaru, with her Beyblade Wind Aquario, can switch from stamina type to attack type with her changeable tip. She can also effectively do Shadow Clone Jutsu. Not only does she never win any important match in the series, she is also used as fodder to demonstrate the power of terrorism. It sucks! She's so cool! But they don't let her be cool! All these hobby anime really need to let the female characters be cool. I mean, all of society does, but one step at a time. But you know who is cool? Mr. himself, Ryuga. He's kind of like if you made a Naruto AMV set to Skillet into an evil, evil child. He would stay up past his bedtime or murder someone in cold blood just because he holds them in the same regard of something I'm not supposed to do. They say he's evil because he's possessed by his forbidden Beyblade, but spoiler alert, he never stops acting like this in future seasons. He just murders marginally less people. Not only does he murder people in the way, but also in the
Grovel at my feet just like your father did!
way. The evilest child of all time is on a warpath to destroy Ginga, and anybody else with a pulse really, and he's fully capable of doing so with his forbidden Beyblade, Lightning L Drago. Long ago, the dark Beyblade, Lightning L Drago, was made from a star, like literally all Beyblades are in the most literal sense. Don't question it if you like getting answers, and had to be sealed away for its despicable power. This power, it's an attack type that can spin left instead of right, unlike every other Beyblade in the series. Because of this and its softer plastic contact points, or crystal in universe, it can steal the spin from other Beyblades and drain the spiritual energy from their owners. Ryuga and his Bey are so maniacally vicious and chillingly cool that they kind of surpass any need for an actual backstory or character motivation. Ryuga's past can be neatly summarized as he showed up one day, committed some war crimes, and got put into a capsule until he could do them again. Now you may have noticed that I've only talked about the characters so far. This is because it's the only thing I can do. You see, Metal Fight Beyblade is a series that entirely consists of events happening in a set order and in a cool way. The characters are just there to push the plot forward and be cool doing it. They are purely aesthetic props to the series, and this somehow works. It's kind of like a lot of blockbuster films. You could change wide swaths about the characters' personalities, and you would still end up with a very similar end product. Things like Kyoya and Benkei's bromance and Ginga's missing father are not things that happen to characters, but rather items that they can check off of their character trait list in order to move the plot forward. There is character development, but most of it's not that deep. And it doesn't have to be deep. You can tell stories in a lot of different ways. The first 2 seasons of Beyblade Burst take the opposite approach. Those seasons are very character-focused, and remain more grounded than the Metal Fight series, at least until the very end. The Beyblade's abilities in those series are heavily toned down, in order to allow focus on the character's growth as both bladers and people. If you change the character of Vault Aoi, the protagonist of the series, you'd have to change the whole thing. The plot is his character development and growth as a blader. However, you could change a lot about Ginga and have the series stay mostly the same. All you have to do is have Ginga be friendly and make dumb decisions sometimes. And I think this diversity in storytelling is actually a good thing. Metal Fight Beyblade might not pull at your heartstrings, but it will pull at the last thread of your sanity as the most unhinged escapades happen on your screen, whether you like it or not.
Why have you brought outsiders here, Hyoma? What? The doggy spoke!
So, that being said, I cannot spoil the plot for you. Going into the series blind is the fun part, as you can feel insane in the best way possible watching this goddamn children's show. Metal Fight Beyblade Metal Fusion is a show that happens to you. I mean this in the best way possible. After watching it, you will feel drained in the same way that you would after riding a roller coaster that's not up to code. That's a good thing. The series doesn't really have any complex themes. In fact, it tackles its themes like a speedrunner does plot in a game. It doesn't. It knows it's a toy commercial and decides to deliver that experience through an epic, high-octane adventure for its audience. And sometimes, that's all you really need. If you want to watch the series, it's up for free on YouTube and Tubi at this very moment in time. The only question left to ask is, do you have the blader spirit to let it rip? How many kidneys do you actually need again?
Beyblade.
La 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 la.